Alright, folks, here we go. First attempt. This is pretty cold, so as I mentioned before, this would be my first attempt at streaming, but more importantly, I've been collecting the information over the last week. I just wrapped up the video portion that is going to run in the background, and we're going to try and keep this in 30 minutes. So what we're going to do here is, if you're on Meerkat, you're welcome to go ahead and drop in questions in the stream here. Today's subject is going to be buyers and frequently asked questions that I get with buyers. And what we're going to do is just highlight about 3 major questions that we get frequently, and then we'll be a Q&A session at the end, and love to be able to answer any questions that you guys have. So on the Meerkat side, this is kind of the behind the scenes stream. Going to focus here on YouTube with an outline that we've got prepared. So let's go ahead and get this underway. Music, cool thing is I can do this however I want. So yes, I'm leaving the music on in the background intentionally, just to have some background noise. And the best part is, since I'm doing this in my home office, I might have the interactivity of my kids running through here pretty soon. So I'm going to try and do this before they wake up, and I can get my day started. But let's get a move on. Good morning, YouTube, if you are listening. This is Jared. I'm with Crown Point Realty, my Vegas team at Crown Point Realty. I am a realtor here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am embarking on a new adventure here with this streaming option that we have on YouTube. Just purchased the S7 Edge for my wife, and I noticed that as the new devices come out, there's more opportunities to do live casting. I've tried Meerkat before and seen the Periscope app, and I think it's an interesting approach, so we're going to give it a try. What I've proposed this morning is a conversation around buyers, and really what we want to do is tackle a couple of questions that we get frequently on the buyer side. And as we proceed with a few more episodes, ideally this is going to be on a weekly basis. The episodes are going to cover both buyers and sellers, but also different aspects of the transaction, and really provide a glimpse of what it takes behind the scenes on a transaction. And the goal here is not only to give you kind of a perspective from the feet on the street, but to answer any questions that you guys have. So my goal here is to be able to just keep this under 30 minutes, hit all the points that I was trying to reach, and along the way, if you have questions, let's hear them out. I'd love to be able to answer them as we move along. You'll notice here that I've got the wrong page up. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I feel like this is a little different. A little background on who I am. First of all, my name is Jared, and I've been in the real estate industry since 1998. Started at the bottom of the bottom, but the cool thing was, is my first 5 years I learned the industry inside and out by helping some of the top agents in Laguna Niguel by supporting their business. I essentially was their transaction coordinator, their back end support, facilitating all processes on the backside, and keeping the agent in the front of the transaction with the client. So I had a really solid understanding of the entire workflow. Just in that experience alone, we had well over 1,100 transactions in a few years. So not to mention, we were in a county that was one of the most litigious parts of the California, and even the country for that matter. So everything had to be spot on as far as the legality and of the transaction and the processes that we maintain, which gave me a fantastic foundation to enter into the world of transaction management. And from there, we went and I joined a national title company, and we had rolled out several systems, which was a lot of fun. Was able to travel everywhere from Alaska to Hawaii to Texas. Had several hundred clients throughout the entire country, assisting them in the transaction workflow. And when the market crashed and the world changed, we saw a lot of negative activity happen for a couple of years. And myself included, we all got caught up in the hype of the market, and that's where I'm at now. After, in retrospect, kind of learning everything that we learned. Let me turn this down because it's kind of distracting. Duke is great, but not when you're trying to have a conversation, right? So, anyways, hype of the market of 2006, and then, of course, the recession in 2009 gave us an opportunity to be able to learn from our mistakes, I guess you can say. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm in this business here on the front lines. We wanted to provide information, educate our clients, but most importantly, learn from experiences and be prepared for the next steps. Which is why you see this infographic up from KCM, Keeping Current Matters, as to why real estate is an excellent investment. At the end of the day, when we look at all of the cycles, there has been countless number of research done on the real estate market, and we always see a peak, we always see a valley every 7 to 9 years. We don't know how high or how low those peaks are going to be. The recession really showed us how low we can go, I guess you can say. But what I like to label that as, the way I like to label that is actually a correction in the market. So it had a severe impact on, obviously, the nation and then, of course, the world. But what we see here in Las Vegas was a proper correction because prices were just ridiculous. We may get to that point someday in the future, but I think it will be under a better economic structure for the city to handle it and then actually maintain those prices. But in 2006, it was just inappropriate. And so, as far as my role and helping homeowners understand home ownership here, one lesson that we did learn was that we can see major impacts, but anyone who has purchased homes, let's say before 2004, you're pretty much back in order as far as price points go. We tend to think of real estate as being an investment opportunity, and you're going to make a lot of money on it because we see a bunch of shows on TV, and really in some markets, as long as you're timing it right, you can make that happen. But in a healthy and a normal market, well, we can certainly count on certain levels of appreciation. Generally speaking, it's about 3 to 5%, and that's just the national average calculated over everything. In different zip codes, different communities, they all have an impact as to the different year-over ratios, and we like to see growth, but the reality is that every growth needs some sort of contraction. Every action, there's a reaction. So that's why it's good to see growth happen, but we also need to change with the times and readjust. So if you are purchasing a home for the long run, home ownership is certainly a great investment because your money will grow, and not to mention it's a place where you live, and it will pay you dividends in the end. And we do have property out there that would facilitate an investment avenue, but we have to know specific details about your intent there. So each case is different. If we're talking about your first-time home buyers, then we've got some information for you to take away today. For your investment opportunities, that's a whole nother beast to deal with, but it's a fun experience to have. We've had a couple of our clients do really, really well over these last couple of years because our market has turned out really good in certain areas, in certain pockets. So it is a good time to buy, and if you're somewhere else in the country, you can take away some of these points, but this conversation is specifically about Vegas and our market here locally. So don't be fooled. Home ownership is certainly a great investment. I will go out on a ledge and say that it's more reliable than the stock market. And if you know your ins and outs of the tax law, you can certainly do really, really well on using homes as investment opportunities. There was an article out of U.S. News that came up in my feed, and I thought it was a really good article to share with you guys, mainly because this kind of throws back a memory for me when I first started in this industry. Or I should say, when I first started the workforce industry. I've always had a negative perspective about salespeople, and especially greasy salesmen is the label I like to use, because there are people out there that have tainted the perspective of salesmanship, and truly, honestly, it sucks. I mean, sucks that people are out there doing it for just the money and doing it just to be able to make a quick buck because they can. But the reality is that just like in any industry or just like any relationship, there are different aspects, or let's put it more appropriately, people with integrity in the business. And the article that came up was 9 red flags to look for when picking a real estate agent. There is a difference between a real estate agent and a realtor. A realtor is someone who abides by a certain level of ethics, in case you didn't know that. But some of these key points I thought were really let me put it this way. I emphasize this to my clients because, sure, you might know somebody who's an agent, but are you getting the best bang for your buck, and are you really getting the value that you can get out of it? A couple of them are one that really is kind of my irritation that I've seen over the 20 years in this business are the ones who are relatives. Yeah, well, my aunt's an agent, but she also works at, I don't know, the welfare office or city job somewhere. Someone who's a part-timer. Be cautious. I'm not knocking them. I'm not saying that they are the wrong person. They could be entering the industry. We've all been there, and there are truly people who are trying to grow and learn. But some of them, just as a red flag, as the article says, just be cautious and ask a lot of questions. Make sure you're getting all of the information and don't just take it by face value. The other type of agent that I'm always been concerned about, even back when we started in the industry in '98, were the ones that offer a lower commission. Sure, friends and family, totally get it. Repeat clients makes a lot of sense. But for those that are truly serious in this industry, have to make a living, such as myself, we do our very best. Do our very best to make sure that you are taken care of, but at the same time, we have to make ends meet. For those that are offering a discount, or brokerages as a whole that offer a discount, just be cautious. Don't get trapped by the idea that you're going to be saving a buck, because it might turn out to be more money you're paying in the long run. As I mentioned at the outset, my background, I started as a transaction coordinator in Laguna Niguel with some of the top producing agents there right on the coast. And when it comes down to knowing the industry and knowing the local market, knowing the communities, knowing the changes in law that take place every few months, someone who's part-time or someone who's going and giving you a discount does not necessarily mean that they are going to be giving you the protection that you need. And so my phrase that I like to just reiterate is, you probably get what you pay for. So just be cautious. That's all we're saying. All right. Again, we're not trying to bash anybody. Just red flags to be aware of, and ask questions. Interview them. Treat them like a business partner instead of a family member. One of the common phrases we had or still have in the business is, you don't do business with friends and family, and it's kind of the case. It somehow reminds you every time you do it. So we are now on to the next article. Is Las Vegas a good place? For 42 million people that come in every year, that was the number of people that came in just last year alone on business, travel, convention, whatever it is. We had 42 million come through Vegas. And I'm sure every one of those that came through had flown over Henderson or flown over some part of Las Vegas and realized that this city is more than just the 2 mile strip that runs up in north south Las Vegas Boulevard. And for anybody who's been off of the strip within a couple of miles knows that there is a pretty dark side of town. And we've got legendary status as far as our dirt. But you'll realize that there are a little over 2 million people that actually live here and call this home. I've just had two boys recently, and my question that I always ask is, do I want to raise them in here? And the reality is that Las Vegas is not that bad. It really is a good town once you get off of the strip, and there's a lot to do. We've got, I think, 7 national parks within 2 to 2.5 hours drive from here. We are right at the crosshairs of Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and California, and it's only a 3.5 hour drive to the beach. So we are basically labeled the backyard for Southern California, and that's cool. I mean, I'm originally from, like I said, Orange County, and all my family's still there, so I get to visit them every few weeks or months whenever I get down there, or they can come here whenever they visit. So it's more than just the strip. There's definitely a lot to do as far as activity goes. There's more effort to have family events take place, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot more of an increase of that kind of activity here in town, to be able to give more family-based features than anything. We have seen a slight increase of crime and activity, but we don't have all of the drama that you would probably see on CSI or some of the news outlets that glamorize the violence. Mayor Goodman did the State of the Vegas address here in January, and she had mentioned there's a large effort to bring in the medical industry here in Vegas, and we do have a couple of districts that are inviting the deeper part of the medical industry. So we're trying to be a world-class facility in terms of medical and hospice care. When we're talking about industry and business, Las Vegas has attracted a number of large businesses. You've probably heard of, just this last week, Tesla's massive return that they had just by one day of sales, 130,000 orders for the Model 3. Elon Musk went out and sent a tweet or something like that said, he did the quick math on it, like $7.3 billion in transactions just in that one day for everybody that was placing an order on the Model 3. Yeah, pretty impressive. And if you're buying a Tesla, awesome. They've placed a battery factory up in Reno, and part of their effort is to bring some of the revenue here in Nevada. But to contrast that, Faraday Future is another electric car company who is focused on bringing a major part of that industry here. So if